ndumva hano hatari hakwiye kubaho impungenge kuba hari byo UN iri gukorana na rwiyemezamirimo mu rwego rwo kugira ngo tugerageze gukemura ibibazo byugarije isi, cyane ko ibyo dukora byose biri mu murongo mugari w'intumbero y'igihugu cyacu. Rero iyo tugize amahirwe tukabona ba rwiyemezamirimo nabo babifitemo ubushake, tugerageza kubafasha kugira ngo n'ubushobozi bwiyongere, noneho ibikorwa bikorwe kandi bikorwe neza. Nkaba rero numva nta mpungenge zagombye kubaho, kuko ba rwiyemezamirimo tugize amahirwe bakagira ubushobozi buhagije, nibo batanga akazi, kandi noneho nibashyira na za human right guiding principles in place, bizatuma no muri kwa gutanga akazi hari ibintu byinshi bareba, uruhare rw'umugore mu kazi, ndetse ntibatandukanye ari umugabo ndetse n'umugore, bose babahe akazi batitaye ko kuvuga ngo uyu ni igitsina runaka. Ntago ari ibyo gusa, kandi hari byinshi bikorwa mu kazi, uburyo umukozi yitabwaho. Ibyo byose iyo ba rwiyemezamirimo bafite za ngamba in place, sustainability principles in place, biroroha kuko igiharanirwa no kugira ngo ari wa mukozi ntabangamirwe, ariko kandi ari na rwiyemezamirimo uri gushaka inyungu azigereho, kandi azigereho ana creating an impact to the society.
Companies taking over, it's individuals who take over who rule, and those individuals may have backgrounds in the corporate sector. But clearly, if you run a country of rules and constitution that defines the responsibility of leaders and the obligation of leadership to the citizenry, and a strong judiciary, then it's possible for you to mediate any excess behaviors. Actually, it's also not correct to suggest that companies are only interested in the profit motive, because what we know today globally, every country, most companies focus on environmental, social, and governance accountabilities, because in many countries you have rules, you have laws that require that. So the companies have to ensure that they are performing on the basis of those requirements. For example, you have to do an environmental impact assessment if you want to engage in a construction project where the land is fragile, where you have communities living there, where the ecosystem is threatened. So without an environmental impact assessment, no government institution will approve your plans for that construction, for example. So it's much more dynamic, it's much more complex. What we hope to see is that literally every company embeds a culture of environmental, social, and governance accountability in the work they do. They empower women, they focus on labor rights, they don't employ children, for example. They pay workers a fair wage, a decent wage, and then they comply with the requirements of their host country.
Guhuriza hamwe ba rwiyemezamirimo, intego nyamukuru no kugira ngo mu byo bari gukora babikore mu buryo bw'iterambere rirambye. Murabona ko muri no minsi isi yugarijwe n'ibibazo byinshi. Nkuko mwabibonye, hari SDG goals zashyizweho muri agenda 2030, ariko igiye kureba ishyirwa mu bikorwa ryayo usanga tukiri inyuma. Muri urwo rwego rero ari UN ndetse na guverinoma y'u Rwanda ndetse n'abikorera ku giti cyabo bagomba guhura bakaganira zimwe mu ngamba zafatwa kugira ngo ibyo bibazo byugarije isi bibe byagabanuka ndetse bikanavaho. Rero ni kimwe mu gituma dushishikariza ba rwiyemezamirimo kuba bajoininga our sustainability initiative.
Companies cannot take over the functions of government. So each state, each society has a division of labor. You have government, you have private sector, you have communities, you have civic groups. So I hear what you are trying to say. What you are trying to say actually is where private sector so influences the work of government that communities then are impacted. In Africa, that is not a likely trend in Africa. It's happening in some parts of the world because of the nature of their politics. The nature of their politics where with your money you can buy advertising, support political campaigns, engage in mobilization in messaging that then makes people who are linked to those private sector institutions to win elections. And therefore, a lot of the policies they make favor private sector against the larger public. Now, but that is counterbalanced by the rules and structures and regulations of a society. It is also counterbalanced by the judiciary. So you will find that in some countries where you do see those trends, there's a lot of activism. There's civic activism to challenge the actions of those private sector institutions in the law courts. And very often, the citizen activism succeeds in the law court. So talk about Rwanda. You and I know that is not possible in Rwanda because first we have a strong government in Rwanda. We have strong rules about corporate behavior, but we also have good corporate citizens in Rwanda. The corporate sector here is a good citizen. They comply with the requirement and they support the national transformation agenda. Now, what we then will work together, you and I and all of us, is citizen education, is civic education. People need to be aware of their rights. People need to be aware that they can go to court and challenge practices and behaviors by corporate sector that undermine their rights. A classical example is maybe you have a company manufacturing something by the stream or waterside, and they dump effluents by the stream, and those effluents can pollute the water, can kill the fish, and can pollute the water that community members drink. Now, if citizens are aware, they raise it up with state authorities, and then the state authorities can conduct investigation, can punish the company, can even take them to court for wrong economic behavior. So it's a dynamic relationship that reinforces itself. Let's hope that in our part of the world, we will not have a situation where corporates take over the government to the extent that citizens have no redress or no recourse to justice.